Hello, I am Damika Jackwood. This video is for video response to Counseling 6323 Crisis Response and Trauma Care. For the needs in the heroic phase, which can also be described as the assistant phase, consists of 1. Denying the impact the disaster is having on their homes. 2. Denying the impact the disaster is having on them and their families. 3. Utilizing extraordinary measures to protect their homes and families. The needs and challenges of the heroic phase reminds me of the saying, things could be worse. When people use this statement, it is my opinion that while they mean it with good intentions, intentions to be grateful, appreciative, hopeful, encouraging, or motivated. It is also a way to bury their true feelings and it can negate the facts. When someone has experienced a disaster, they are also entitled to feel however they want, whether that be anger, sadness, depression, frustration, etc. It is okay to take a moment and sit and acknowledge, um, it is okay to take a moment to acknowledge as well as sit in that feeling. Our society stresses the hustle culture, which can also be described as being independent. However, that ideology is restless, exhausting, not sustainable. It can also be mentally and physically unhealthy. Ales of Life describes the 7 reasons why hustle culture is toxic. They first explain that hustle culture is where people feel the need to put work above everything else in their lives as they strive to achieve goals. In most cases, the goals are professional or financial. Individuals with this mindset are often obsessed with productivity. However, this obsessive grind does not always lead to a more fulfilling life. The 7 reasons given are: 1. You will experience burnout. Burnout can be counterproductive to your goals. It negatively impacts your creativity, which also affects your productivity in the long term. 2. It impacts your health. Not receiving enough sleep is detrimental to your physical and mental health. It can also impact your physical health through back pain, posture, and cardiovascular diseases. 3. You never finish working. 4. Hustle culture is counterproductive. 5. Failure hits differently. 6. It can be manipulative. And lastly, 7. In the context of employment, there's no work life balance. Once someone has this mentality in one aspect, such as their career or profession, it is easily adaptable and can be applied to others in other areas. For example, someone who has worked nonstop to achieve financial or professional goals will use this same drive and force to regain everything that they've lost once a disaster occurs, even to the point where they are working tirelessly just to regain material possessions. The needs and challenges of the heroic phase are also defense or coping mechanisms built as a way to protect oneself. It's the equivalent of building a wall around the mental mind and health from a future attack. Additionally, as described by Gary Miller, the author of Fundamentals of Crisis Counseling, during the heroic phase, clients may experience shock, yet may be in a high state of arousal. An appropriate reaction and response is for the counselor to encourage the client to pace him or herself in responding to the disaster situation rather than having a fever pitch response to all situations. That can be, going into overdrive to regain the items, or putting so much pressure on oneself to support their family um, during this specific time. During a crisis or disaster, responses will differ and vary from person to person. Disasters and reactions are essentially unpredictable. The only predictable aspect is that following a disaster, the community will be in disarray and chaotic, and because of the chaotic environment, it will be up to the counselor to assess what is normal or what would be a normal reaction and what is atypical. Restoration and healing is a process. It takes time, and more time. It is impossible to successfully arrive at being healed when rushing the process. During the honeymoon phase, most have reached burnout. This happens to the victims of the disaster. Victims experience physical ailments, and individuals will reach this point at different times. What I noticed in this video, um, the needs and challenges of disaster, is that the video, what I noticed in this video is that the feelings of gratitude, hope, and normalcy may be unrealistic. When you think of a honeymoon phase, you think of all the good things. You think of the positive. However, the honeymoon phase in reality occurs weeks to months after the disaster, and those optimistic feelings are short lived. This is a great time, however, for counselors and aides to make an impact on the survivors and victims. When disaster mental health workers are visible and perceived as helpful during this phase, they are more readily accepted and have a foundation from which to provide assistance in the difficult phases ahead. The common clinical conditions during the disillusionment phase includes PTSD, anxiety, depression, addiction, domestic violence, and substance abuse. Interventions suggested after learning from experience include debriefing, disaster plans, which include normalizing disaster and preparing for disaster. For the conditions most common in the disillusionment phase, a counselor can provide support as other nonprofits move out. They can provide specific community mental health training, encourage and refer people to mental health services, and encourage hope and healing through Christ. I have included the following resources in my response: HBU online course development, needs and challenges of disaster; Isles of Life, 7 reasons why hustle culture is toxic and how to slow down; Emotional phases of a disaster, collective reactions. Thank you.